Evening, everybody. Welcome to the executive. It feels like we're the warm-up gig before the main event. The main band arrives later. But we'll try and do our best in this session. Could we start, please, Ms Willis, with apologies for absence, please?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor McIntyre has sent her apologies.
Very good. Declarations of interest from anybody? Councillor Rise.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to declare a non-pecuniary interest in relation to my professional employment that is in the same field as planning and local plan promotions. My professional employment is set out within my declared register of interests, and on advice from the monitoring officer, I do not have a pecuniary interest because my employment is not directly or indirectly the subject matter of the agenda item. I acknowledge and declare I have a non-pecuniary interest, but I come to this meeting with an open mind and with no confirmed position. As such, I am satisfied I may participate in and vote on this agenda item, which is agenda item 5.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rise. Any others? I have just a quick question myself, maybe on behalf of us all. The item in this session and the next session relates to the local plan. Obviously, we are owners of properties within that local plan and have had an opportunity to influence it on behalf of the residents. I assume there's nothing unusual in that, given that none of us have a particular interest, just as a body we do. Is that correct?
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. That's correct. Those property interests are too remote, and again, they're not the subject matter, either directly or indirectly, of this agenda item. So.
Thank you very much. So we can all speak freely in this session and in the next session as the representatives of the residents. Moving on to public question time. I wasn't aware we had any. No, either planned or unplanned this time? No, good. And we'll move on to then item 4, which is questions by members. Any takers for this one? You getting ready for the Olympics? I'm not sure if you're Councillor Cope today or Councillor Garrett. Your hand was shot up so fast. There. Councillor Garrett, please.
Thank you, Leader. I've warned Councillor Rise in advance that I'm going to ask this question because something's popped into my email box in the last few days. It's a case where a resident's been bounced backwards and forwards between us and county. On the 4th of June, a resident slipped on moss in a road within Surrey Heath. The 7th of June, the resident reported it to Surrey Heath. On the 10th of June, Surrey Heath said it was Surrey County Council. On the 17th of June, Surrey County Council said it was Surrey Heath. On the 20th of June, I was contacted by officers saying it's something being looked at, and then JWS stated it was responsible for SCC. I threw my toys out the pram a little bit because the resident obviously wants to get it fixed. Having slipped, we're lucky he's not suing us. Councillor Rise looked into it and we were told that it is SCC, and I spoke to my county councillor and he's come back and said it's not SCC. We've looked at it again and the officers here have said it is SCC. I've had an email this week from my county councillor saying it's definitely not SCC, it's definitely Surrey Heath Borough Council. All I want, 7 weeks in, is for someone, somewhere, to own up and fix it. In fairness to the team, we have actually been out, JWS have actually been out, and they've tried to clean it, but they haven't got the facilities to clean it, because usually, apparently, we don't clean moss. Well, that would lead me to believe if we don't usually clean moss, then it's not our responsibility. That's a very shortened version of it, and I did warn Councillor Rise in advance, but I think it's fair that we need to bring it to the Chamber because someone needs to look at this, jump up and down on the relevant officers wherever they are and try and fix it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. I think it's probably not the only example of ping-pong between different organisations, whether it be that one or other ones. Councillor Rise, do you want to respond?
Yes, thank you, Leader, and thank you, Councillor Garrett, for the advance notice of the question. As this is now regarding legal advice, I would have to take it away to discuss with officers. However, it is our opinion, and as I've discussed with him, it is our opinion that this would be the responsibility of the county council, because the county council is responsible for weeds and weed spraying, and the borough council is responsible for litter and detritus. So the initial weed spraying part of clearing this moss would not fall to the Borough Council. However, I will take that away to discuss with officers. I have warned I have informed the Chief Executive that I was expecting this question this evening, so he'll take it away and I'll discuss with Ms McCubbin as well.
Thank you for raising Councillor Garrett, and thank you to the team for trying to do their best, even if they didn't have the right equipment. So that's very much in the spirit of what we want to see. Any other questions? No. That's great. That allows us to... Oh, I'm terribly sorry. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Leader. Would you join me in thanking the returning officer and their staff for conducting a free and fair election on the 4th of July? I was a polling agent and I saw firsthand how thorough and rigorous the staff were. And would you also join me in congratulating the newly elected MP for Surrey Heath, Al Pinkerton, who is also, as we know, a long-term resident of the borough? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Yeah, I hadn't actually expected Miss Willis to be here. Otherwise, I had discussed with the Chief Executive that I was, in fact, going to make that very same point. So thank you very much for raising it. I think we are all extremely thankful to all the Democratic Services team and all the other people that stepped up outside their normal roles. We had, it seemed to be half the IT department in Lightwater manning one of the polling stations. I'm sure it was the same in other places. You got to see some familiar faces. So thank you very much to the Democratic Services team. Also, thank you to all the extra members of the public that came in and were trained to support the count. Thank you to the team at the theatre that made sure we had facilities and seemed to see some people have a plentiful, bountiful supply of beer to keep them going through the early stages of the evening while some of the results were coming in. But no, we made sure we had a very efficient and effective and valid count, and that's much appreciated, I'm sure, by all of us who are involved in the democratic process and treasure it very much. In terms of the new MP, I think there's two things there. One is to thank the previous MP for his service. I think we all know, having put ourselves forward for these roles, that they do have their moments. I think Councillor Garrett has just raised one in terms of dealing with a moss issue that's bouncing around. And I'm sure Michael Gove also had the same kind of challenges from time to time. But yes, congratulations to Al Pinkerton. We've already had our first alignment meeting with him around topics of mutual interest, and that relationship will go forward. I think, unfortunately, we had our first piece of casework in the last 24 hours, which is only right and proper where a resident needs our support to all of our support in the public service to try and push things just along in the right direction. So, yes, thank you very much for the question, Councillor Wilson. But I think the key thing is democracy, the democratic process was followed, and our sincere thanks to everybody that was involved in ensuring a fair and honest count, which, as we know, is not the case in all parts of the world, particularly with our friend Mr. Putin in Russia. Any other questions from members? Good. Well, without further ado, we'll move on to, I'm sure you're saving up all the questions for next week, by the way, which you're welcome to. Let's move on to item 5, the pre-submission of the Surrey Heath local plan. Councillor Alan Ashby, please.
Sorry. Given that this is going to be the topic of discussion both here and at the meeting that follows, I'm not planning to do a full speech about it at this meeting. Just to say the pre-submission Regulation 19 local plan we think is ready for publication, and we would like Executive to recommend that full Council debate and approve it later on this evening. I'll take any questions that anyone has.
No? Saving the good stuff for later? Okay. In that case, I suggest we move on to the recommendation, which I'm not ready for. So the executive advisor to recommend to full council the pre-submission Surrey Heath Local Plan 2019 to 2038 Regulation 19 and resolve as documented. Are we agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. I must apologise to my colleague on the left-hand side because Councillor Wilson was very generous in asking a question about the returning officer. I completely failed to thank the returning officer. So thank you to Mr Stevens for his efforts in terms of the democratic process. You have had a general election on week 1. You've now got an extraordinary executive and council in week 3. I'm not sure what's happening in week 5, but I would book some leave if I was you. But thanks very much to Mr Stevens, and apologies for the oversight. In that case, I think we are done and dusted, unless I have been sleeping, for the executive. And so the meeting is now closed, and we re-adjourn at 7 o'clock sharp, please, for full council. Thank you. Bye-bye.